Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with veteran jazz saxophonist and the owner of Ear Up Records, Jeff Coffin. We caught up with him on December 8th as the 2020 COVID-19 world flared up again in a huge way. He's coming from his home base of Nashville, and along with being the saxophonist for the Dave Matthews Band, he was formerly with Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. He is the professor of saxophone at Vanderbilt University and the founder of the great Ear Up Records. He opens up about his label and how he's been dealing with this new pandemic world and much more. Enjoy.
Strange time we live in, but I think that it's usually a strange time we live in.
Yeah, isn't it?
This is just a little stranger than usual, you know?
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. I'm good, man. I'm waiting for David Lynch to walk down the middle of the street and do that whole cut thing. I'm just waiting for it, you know. But
he can't come quick enough, man.
No, man, he cannot. And I don't care what ambiguity or ambivalence goes into that storyline. Just scream the words and I'm good. So it's over with.
Yeah, right.
But
I hear you, man.
The good thing that's happening with the world right now, and I think it's I think it's paramount that we look at the silver linings. And I think about Kansas City. There's a club that just opened up. Lonnie McFadden just opened a club, Club Reno, which is huge. I still get CDs in the mail. And the email that you sent last week, the fact that, you know, you have your label and you have artists that are on there, the world's still moving, you know, and I think that's what we need to realize, you know, it's not only in music, but in life. What's your take on that? I mean, just reaching out and you have new material coming out. How do you feel about that?
I feel good about it, man. You know, in talking to various friends, you know, there's been a couple of people that have reminded me and said, hey, you know, don't forget that out of, you know, the 1918 pandemic came the Roaring Twenties and the Harlem Renaissance. And I think we're in for something similar, quite honestly. I think that there's a lot of people that are creating. There are a lot of people who aren't able to create, who are ready to create, who are going to have all this energy to create. And so when things open up, I think it's going to bust wide open, man. I think there's going to be a lot of really incredible stuff going on, and I think there already is. And there's been some really fantastic recordings that have come out, you know, during this time period, and you know, so I think that I think there's a lot of, you know, like you said, man, you got to look for the silver lining, and I think there are some really great silver linings in all of this. You know, it's kind of a reset of sorts. You know, creatively, artistically, you know, to have not been on the road for the last 8 months, I think a lot of us feel really rejuvenated. You know, I've been on the road since 1997 full time, and I haven't had open time like this to explore since the early 1990s. You know, and at that point, you know, I didn't have the creative sense that I do now. I didn't have the resources that I have now as far as recording. I didn't have the maturity as a musician until now. You know, so there are a lot of positive things with it, you know, and so I've been writing books. I've been recording music. I've engineered some sessions, you know, socially distanced in my studio. Been writing some kids' books with the trumpet player Augie Haas, and I've just been doing a lot of different things, you know, and I've been teaching a lot. I teach at Vanderbilt. You know, one of my things with my students is always, man, you got to find creative ways of being creative, and so that really applies. I mean, especially now, because it's not like we really have anything to you know, work towards gig-wise. It's not like, oh, I've got this thing coming up in a month that I got to, like, really be ready for, or I've got this session coming up, and I've got, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And so there's a few, very far and few between on those things.
the one thing that I wanted to ask about is Ear Up Records. You know, that's your label, and you know, you have a lot of activity going on. I got to really peruse and see a lot of things going on. Talk to me a little bit about what's happening with you and with the label, and how you're, you know, going through this 2020 year.
Well, all the music that gets put out is decided on by me, and it's stuff that I really believe in. It's musicians that I really believe in. Originally, it started as a place where I could put my stuff out after I left Compass Records a number of years back, and I decided, well, you know, I can help my community also, and kind of the idea of strength in numbers, put some more stuff out, and you know, help some other folks out too. So it's a pretty wide swath of music that gets put out on there. I've got a couple of records coming out right after the first of the year. One with Derek Brown, the box saxophonist, a duo record that we did together. I guess almost a year ago we recorded it. And he came to town and we wrote a bunch of stuff. We did, I think there's 3 videos, or I think there's 3 videos with it. And it's a really, really interesting project. And then I've got another duo project coming out with a cellist out of New Orleans named Helen Gillet, which is one of my favorite things I've ever done, actually. And we're going to get Lydia Liebman to help us with promotion on that. And I've been working on about 40 tunes during the lockdown, you know, during the pandemic, that are all across the board, you know. And I've been sending stuff around the world for people to play on, to Brazil and, you know, different parts of the U.S. Just kind of all over the place, you know, getting different musicians on it, and you know, just trying to kind of spread the width of what we do musically on the label. And so, you know, I've got to figure out exactly how I want to release all that material next year. And I've got a trio record I haven't released yet either, called the Viridian Trio, with Jordan Perlson and Felix Pastorius, that we recorded a few years back before we went to Tuva, which is where the third singers are. And so we did a project for that trip that I still haven't released yet, that I need to, but it's hard to find the time to do that. So there's a lot of stuff still in the chute, and it's a small operation. It's myself, and I've got a couple of assistants that help me with things, that help me with the website, and help me with getting stuff to people. And it's definitely a labor of love. But it's also part of what I give back to the community. You know, I make no money from the label. Everybody owns everything that they put on there. I put it up for them. We do web pages. We do promotion. They need help getting the CDs. I'll help them get the CDs. But I don't take any money from anybody for anything that's on the label. So it's part of what I consider to be, you know, like a service to my musical community. So it's, you know, it's like pulling teeth, because I don't really know much about the business end of things, quite honestly. You know, I'm a musician first, and I've learned a lot of this other stuff as I've gone along, and you know, I'm fairly organized. I wouldn't say I'm greatly organized, but I work hard at it, and I work hard every day to you know, put time and effort into label stuff. And I've got a social media person, same guy that does all our stuff for Dave Matthews Band. He lives in Brazil, actually, and he does all of our social media worldwide for Dave Matthews. And so I've recently brought him on to Ear Up as well. Just trying to figure out how to get things out there as best we can to let people know about it, because I believe that the music that we're releasing is every bit as good as anything that's out there. And you know, and I try to keep my ear to the floor and see what's going on. You know, using different streaming platforms to find out, who's doing what out there, and obviously social media, Downbeat also. And for me, part of the inspiration for the label is a label like ESP. I'm not saying it's avant-garde, because it's not, but the freedom is left to the artist, and I think that's the way that it should be. I think that's what Don Was is doing right now, also with Blue Note, and I've seen a resurgence, quite honestly, in the creativity of Blue Note Records since he's been at the helm. I think that a lot of the stuff that's coming out on there now is really fantastic. It's giving the artist the choice, and I think there's a tremendous amount of creativity going on with young players these days, and the music is changing in a way to, I think, encompass a lot more of the cultures of music that we're all being exposed to now. And so I think the internet has radically changed that. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about having everything literally at our fingertips. And people will complain, people don't know records anymore. Like, they don't know entire records. Like, we used to know, Blue Train, every note on Blue Train. It's like, okay, well, when we grew up, when I was in North Texas, for example, in the mid-'80s, Blue Train was only 20 or 25 years old, So that would be like me saying, okay, I knew everything from this record in 1995. And when you put it in perspective like that, it's like, oh, God, Yeah. We weren't that far removed from that stuff. I mean, like, Live at the Lighthouse was 15 years old. It would have been like a record from 2005.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's a lot of it's perspective, man, and times have changed, and I'm in my mid-50s now. I still feel like I'm in my 20s, but like, I hear these young cats playing, and I'm just like, holy shit, man! Like, there was never this kind of playing when I was younger. There was nobody playing like this, and so the playing field has radically altered, and I'm really happy about it. I'm really excited about it. I'm not one of these guys that's like, oh man, this stuff was better then. I'm just like, man, it's just different now. And I'm excited to hear what all these young musicians are doing, and I'm inspired by it. And I kind of saw that when Snarky Puppy started really hitting a number of years back, that people were excited about solos. People were excited about music in a way that it used to be, and they were creating music that was theirs and that was their generations. And, I think that, playing standards and understanding the Great American Songbook is a really important part of developing. However, those tunes are 60, 70 years old, and they belong to a different generation. And when you have people like Terrace Martin, Emmanuel Wilkins, Chris Potter to an extent. I mean, Chris is still of an older generation now, like I am. But you've got some young cats that are really killing it. This African piano player who just debuted on Blue Note also. Brilliant, beautiful, incredible music, And the scene that Kamasi has tapped into, love it or hate it, he's touched a nerve. And you've got these guys that are doing records with Kendrick Lamar and other contemporary musicians, and now you got Terrace out with Herbie Hancock, and there's a lot of really great stuff going on. I think that I come back to Terrace a couple of times because I think that he's conceptualized the instrument in a way that's very unique. I remember listening to his records, and I was thinking, wow, man, like, the saxophone is only part of what he does. And yet he's a brilliant saxophonist, knowing the history. He's coming out of the Jackie McLean school. And So I'm really excited, man. And I think that one of the things we're trying to do with Ear Up also is to sort of bring some of that world through as well. Not only the straight ahead stuff, but the other creative stuff that we're able to do. And I continue to push myself musically and creatively to do those things on my own.
Beautiful. Jeff, hey, thanks, man. You hit so many bases. You answered so many potential questions I had. I really appreciate you. Yeah, thank you for taking some time out. I really want to make sure that I introduce you well and the label to what's going on in the world of jazz, just, during COVID. So, hey, good luck with everything. Stay safe out in this crazy world, and I look forward to seeing you guys back on stage. Thank you.
Right on, Joe. Thanks, man. You too.
Take care, man.
Appreciate you. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview. We give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Nashville, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Jeff for being a friend of the show and giving us his time and talent. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.